issue that has taken center stage in this election is how to rewrite the U.S. tax code. I'd like to hear what the Nikki Tsongas and John Golnik tax plans are and why your plan is the best approach for the American people.
Well, I believe that first and foremost, the most important tax issue we confront is whether or not to extend the Bush tax cuts. And I firmly believe that we need to extend the tax cuts for 98% of Americans. The middle class has been so hard hit as a result of the great downturn. We've seen the growing income gap. Very important that we leave these dollars in the hands of the middle class. I do not support extending the tax cuts for the highest income of earners. And as we address taxation, I think it's very important. My opponent has taken a pledge. He has taken the Grover Norquist pledge, and in no instance would he consider raising revenue. And we know as we confront a debt and a deficit that have accumulated over many, many years, the product of two wars that were not spent for, tax cuts that were not offset with decreased spending in any instance, and very important pharmaceutical drug coverage for seniors, but again, one that was not paid for, a squandering of the Clinton surplus. We confront an extraordinary challenge, and it's going to require three branches to the stool as we figure out how to address it. We have to look at ways to bring revenue in. Letting the 2% tax for the 2% of Americans lapse is one way to do it. We end the subsidies for big oil and big gas. There was a time when they needed them. They don't need them now.
Thank you. Mr. Golnik, 60 seconds.
Representative Tsongas talks a lot about a balanced approach towards deficit reduction. That's a shell game. A balanced approach is we raise taxes now and we put off spending cuts till later. We don't have a revenue problem in this country, we have a spending problem. The 2% that Representative Senator Tsongas is talking about will generate $70 billion a year in additional income. It's not going to be a windfall, and as a matter of fact, when juxtaposed against the $1.2 trillion deficit, it cuts that deficit by about 5%. The total income for the 2% is approximately $1 trillion a year. Now, if Representative Tsongas would like to raise their taxes to 100% of that, that wouldn't even begin to balance our budget. We do not have a spending problem in this country. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. I say cut the corporate tax rate from 35% to 25%, broaden the tax base. Don't give credit to people who move their companies overseas and let them take a tax cut. Let's close that loophole and let's bring these jobs back to this country by giving credit to companies who bring their businesses back to this place. Let's extend the Bush tax cuts permanently because we don't raise taxes on small business creators who create the jobs. Thank you.
30 seconds, Congressman.
We do have a spending problem, and then let me tell you who has been doing the spending. The two wars that were unpaid for that I referenced, the tax cuts, the Bush tax cuts that were not offset, the pharmaceutical drug coverage that was not paid for, the squandering of the Clinton surplus, so that when we hit an extraordinary challenge to our economy, there was nothing in the national nest egg. That is the spending problem we have. And as we talk about how to address it going forward, letting the Bush tax cut for the top 2% of Americans lapse would generate $800 billion over 10 years. We're confronting what we call sequestration. We have to come up with $1.2 trillion. Those $800 billion would go a long way to addressing it.
The next question.